Alright, next in section 12.3, we're going to continue on with problem number 1. Here in part K, we're looking at y squared minus 2y all divided by y times y squared all divided by y squared minus 3y plus 2. Okay, so these are getting a little more involved, okay, as we saw in the last couple examples, right? Really want to make sure we factor first before doing any kind of cross simplifying, okay? So I'm going to first factor out that y in our first numerator, giving us a y times the quantity y minus 2, and then I'm dividing by y. For the second factor, I have a y squared, and then over here I'm going to go ahead and factor that trinomial. And here, for the y squared, I'll need a y and a y. And for the 2, well, there's just one option. It's just going to be a 1 and a 2. And to get a middle term of -3, these will both have to be opposites. Okay, so now with everything in factored form, let's go ahead and start doing some division, right? So the y minus 2 here and here, those will divide out. And then notice here I have a y there and a y there, so this can divide out to give me a 1 and a 1. And so that's it, right? And so all together we're going to get a y squared in the numerator, and then I'm just going to have that y minus 1 in the denominator, and that is it. All right. For L, we have a division problem, so we'll go ahead and first rewrite this as a multiplication problem. So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of what I'm dividing by. So this would become w over w minus 1. In this first portion here is still the same. All right, and then just like in K, let's go ahead and next factor what's factorable. And I see there's a w in that first numerator I can factor out, so I'll go ahead and do that. And then here for the w minus 1, I'll go ahead and write that in parentheses just for emphasis. And now I can see that the w minus 1 here and here are going to drop out. And then a w here, and do that in a different color, but the w here, if I divide it by w, I'll get w. And then here, I'm going to get a w left over. But then notice here I have a w and a w as well, and so I can divide those. That'll leave me with a 1 there and a 1 there. All right, so now to finish, what's left? Well, I have just a 1 on top and a 1 on bottom, so that in fact is equal to 1. Cool. All right, for M, it's another division problem, so I can go ahead and convert that to a multiplication problem. And notice here I just have a b minus a. Think about this as a fraction. It's b minus a over 1. Okay, so as a multiplication problem, I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to get 1 over b minus a. And then I have my a minus b here, and that's still divided by a. All right, and now notice, okay, this is like a couple videos back, a minus b and b minus a, right? It's the same letters, a and b, it's just that the order of subtraction is flipped. So what I can do now is go ahead and just flip this so it becomes a b minus an a, but then I'm going to introduce a negative in front. And now I'm in a position to go ahead and divide. So I'll go ahead and divide out the b minus a. I'm going to be left with a negative 1 up here and a 1 here. And then when all is said and done, I'm going to be left with a just negative 1 on top and an a times 1, which is just an a on bottom. And that would do it. All right, and then for n here, we have c plus d divided by d minus c divided by d plus c all over c squared minus 2cd plus d squared. All right, so again, it's a division problem, so I'll start by just multiplying by the reciprocal of what I'm dividing by. This stays the same. All right, that's the first step. Next step, I can factor that second numerator there. So I'm going to go ahead and factor that before I do any division. So this will factor as a product of two binomials. I have my d plus c here. And now to build a c squared, I'm going to need a c and a c. And then to build a d squared, I'm going to need a d and a d. And then to get a minus 2cd for that middle term, these are both going to have to be negatives. All right. So now everything's in factored form, so we can go ahead and start dividing stuff out. Couple of things, right? C plus D, D plus C. Those are really the same thing. So these are going to divide out. The other thing I notice is that I have a D minus C and a C minus D. Okay, that's just like what we saw in part M. I can go ahead and flip one of these C minus D's and stick a negative in front, and then that'll allow me to divide. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a couple things here. First, I'll just rewrite the C plus D is D plus C. Then I have my D minus C. And then here I'm going to go ahead and just flip this first factor of C minus D as minus quantity D minus C. I'll leave this C minus D as it is. And then I still have the D plus C. And now let's go ahead and start doing some dividing, right? So the D plus C there and there, that's going to divide out. I also have then a division with the D minus C. That's going to give me a 1 there and a negative 1 there. And now, when all is said and done, I'm going to be left with a negative C minus D on top and just a 1 on bottom. So I'm left with a minus quantity C minus D. Okay, so that would be it. All right, well, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks.